I am we are back with another created moments interview. I'm gonna let y'all know right now, man. This is gonna be one of my favorite interviews. One of the first supporters of Created Moments, Big South Hall of Fame, head ball coach at Nease High School, Collin Drafts. How you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, man. First day of football, 2023. Glad to be chatting with you and ready to get rolling.
And this is right before the beginning of the season, man. So glad to be here with Coach Justin, man. So he's gonna get right into it. So
Was really dominated by sports. I mean, as long as I can remember, we grew up playing, football, basketball, baseball. I was on the swim team. My mom was, throwing me in triathlons when I was like 5 and 6 years old. So that's all we really did, man. It was school, sports, and that's really pretty much the way we lived. I grew up in Beaufort, South Carolina, which is a little bit south of Charleston, South Carolina. What got me playing the game? It's kind of funny, actually, because my dad didn't play football. I've got one older brother. He never played football. But, as long as I can remember, watching college football, watching the NFL at a very young age, I knew that was going to be the sport for me. So I started playing tackle football at 6 years old, fell in love right away, and was blessed to play for a pretty long time. No, I was a running back, actually. I was always, growing up, I was kind of shorter. I was a late bloomer. I didn't get tall until high school, but I was pretty fast. And my idol actually was Barry Sanders. I grew up watching the Lions. I remember telling my dad, I was like, yeah, I want to be just like Barry Sanders. I want to be 5'7" and be a running back. And my dad's 6'6". So he was like, I don't think that's probably going to happen. You might end up being a DN or a QB. And that's where the road led me. Yeah, he was right.
the Pop Warner running backs always end up being one of the best players. That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you go out to a Pop Warner game, the fastest kid, they're going to put him at running back probably in Pop Warner, and then they could end up playing O-line by the time it's all said and done. But it's funny how that works out. No, definitely, man. My dad played college basketball at the College of Charleston. He's actually in the Hall of Fame there. My mom was a swimmer at the College of Charleston. That's where they met. And then my brother played college basketball at Charleston Southern, which is where I played football. My uncle played basketball at Georgia. He actually played high school football. He was the only other one in the family that played football, but definitely was fortunate enough to come from a family of athletes that could teach me the right way. Definitely between me and my brother. I mean, I'm the younger brother. He's 2 years older than me. So I was always kind of the one getting punched down on, always trying to beat him. He pretty much tore me up pretty good in basketball throughout the years. He was a way better basketball player than me. But it provided motivation for me to want to be like him in many ways. The good thing, where it worked out for me and him, is he found his path in basketball and I found my path in football. So once we kind of went down those roads, we didn't have to play that compare game. He was his own athlete and I was my own athlete, and it worked well.
So, how were your high school years then?
Academically in high school, they were strong. That was one thing that our parents always reinforced to me and my brother. It's grades first, sports second. So had a 4.2 GPA and coming out of high school with 1270 on my SAT, which really helped me out a lot because going off to play FCS football, I qualified for a lot of academic scholarship money, which made me way more attractive for those schools to recruit. Because if you go FBS, right, Division I, it's a full athletic ride or nothing. If you go FCS or below, they can split those scholarships up, right? So having good grades definitely, made me. Workout regimen in high school, we had a good high school football program. We turned it into a good high school football program. When I first got there, we were kind of the doormat of our league, but we had a great head coach and a great coaching staff that got us, got the whole, team to buy in, to get in the weight room year round. That was really my first taste of that. So, it was a grind. We had weightlifting class, and then throughout the summer we were lifting, running, throwing. It was different back then, like the advent of, the personal trainers and all the camps and the QB gurus and all that. That didn't really exist, right? So a lot of it was just me getting out on the field, getting the guys together and putting in the work. Yeah, well, we didn't have huddle. We didn't have huddle or max preps. But I started as a sophomore, and I wasn't ready to start yet. I mean, we had a quarterback that moved away. I was in 10th grade, man. I was like 155 pounds. I could barely throw the ball 40 yards, and we got our butt whipped. I think we went 0-11 that year, actually. I mean, I might have thrown for 500 yards, maybe. Right? It wasn't good. Then my junior year, we got a little bit better. We opened it up a little bit. We had a very strong defense that year. We went from 0-10, I think, to winning 7 games and making the playoffs my junior year, which is a big turnaround. I probably had like 1,000 yards. I was a little bit better. But the growth that I made from my junior year to my senior year was by far, the biggest leap for me. By the time I was a senior, I was probably, 6'3", about 185 pounds. We opened it up on offense. I could throw it. I could run it. Had a lot of really good players around me, a lot of really good coaches. I think I was right around 3,000 total yards and 27, 28 touchdowns, passing and running combined. So I had a really good year. I made the North-South All-Star game in the state of South Carolina, and I was a finalist for the Mr. Football Award. Didn't get it, but I basically top 10 in the state. Yep. Yeah, for a fact. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. And I was a late bloomer too, man. Young for my age. I didn't turn 18 until April, my senior year, but that's the way it goes. April 11th. Are you really? Yeah, man. That's it. Yeah. Man, recruit was completely different, right? You had no huddle. We didn't even have DVDs when I was in high school. I graduated in 2003, right? It's funny, I was telling a couple of our players this story the other day, but I had to make a highlight tape at the end of the season. So I had to get the dual VHS tape deck, and you would put the game film in. You got VHS. We got game one. You put the blank one in, and I'd have to fast forward, looking at the TV on what play I wanted to put on the highlight. Okay, I like that throw. Rewind it, click record and dub, and that play would get recorded to the blank tape, right? You'd have to do that for every play, every game. So going through we played 12 games my senior year, probably took me a week or 2 weeks to do that whole process. When you had that one VHS tape of all your plays, then you would make a copy of that. We probably made 40 or 50 copies, put them in a manila envelope, sealed them up, and mailed them off. And that was how you could help yourself get recruited. There was no social media, no Twitter, right? None of that. No huddle when you can just email or text a link. So it was definitely different. And a lot of it came from word of mouth from coaches in the area, saying, hey, this school's got a great quarterback. You should go, check them out. Or what was in the newspapers. I mean, it was vastly different than what we see nowadays. Yep. Right. Yeah, man. Oh, I mean, I remember sitting in my living room, the same house my mom and dad live in right now, sitting on the floor, I loved doing it. There was no other way to do it. I didn't know any better. You get, making a highlight tape, if you got good plays, is pretty fun, so. Yep.
Like, that would almost be an area nowadays. Like, I would think any team kid would sit there, make a tape on a
Right. Well, when I was telling our guys that story, I don't even think they could even understand what I was talking about. And do they even know what a clunky plastic VHS is or a dual tape deck? I mean, they have no clue, right? I need to bring one in and show it to them, brother. Yeah. Sweet. Right. Right. Times are different, man. And that's how we used to exchange film too, right? When I first started coaching, you would have your last 2 games on a VHS or maybe even a DVD, right? But there was no huddle. So I would have to, if you were the drop guy, I would meet the opposing coach that we're about to play at a gas station halfway. I give him the DVD or the tape and he'd give me theirs. And then we go back and we would dub it for all the coaches to take home and look at. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we didn't think anything of it, right? Definitely during and after my junior year, like going into that, that summer, went to a couple different camps, and there were no mega camps back then. I mean, you would just go to the school you wanted to go to, right? So I went to Furman, I went to Wake Forest, I went to App State, schools that were regionally in the North Carolina, South Carolina area, and you go and you try to ball out at camp and get on their radar. And so about that time frame.
Yep. Offers did you have other than Charleston said it coming to college?
So my first offer was from Coastal Carolina. And so that was going into their first year of football. I remember that vividly, being on the phone with their head coach and them calling me and him telling me they're going to offer me a full scholarship. After that, I probably had, at the end of the day, maybe 9 or 10 scholarship offers, all regional, either we called it 1AA back then, but FCS schools or Division II schools. Had a couple opportunities to be like a preferred walk-on at the University of South Carolina and other FBS schools, but I thought it'd be better for me to go where they love me, where they're willing to give me a scholarship, and that ended up being Charleston Southern. The best advice I could give a high school student right now is to not make your main focus trying to get recruited. In my opinion, you're focusing too much on the end result, and there's so much work you need to be focusing on to get there, right? You need to be in the weight room, back up. You need to be in the classroom. You need to be in the weight room. You need to be perfecting your craft on the field. When you got all three of those things down pat and you're really putting in the work, your play is going to show on Friday night, and you're going to get recruited. Now, when you get to that level, though, you can be in your coach's ear as much as possible. You can be active on social media. You can email your film out, your huddle link. But again, my best answer is don't put the cart before the horse. Like, there's so much grind that goes into being a recruitable prospect. If all you're worried about is getting recruited, are you really doing the things you need to do to get recruited in the first place? My opinion. It ended up being very important. I think if I would have gotten some crazy, scholarship offer to go play at Texas or something, that would be hard to turn down, right? But I think it would have been difficult for me to be far away from home because I was extremely close with my brother. That was one of the main reasons I went to Charleston Southern, because he was already there. He's 2 years older than me. He was already on the basketball team. I was familiar with the campus, with the city. I'd been up there many times, and it felt like home to me. And then being able to have the support from my mom and dad. I played 4 years and they never missed one game, so however many games we played, it was probably 44, 45 games. They came to all 45 games. And to be able to have that was pretty special, especially looking back on that now. When you reflect on that, me being a little bit older, it was neat for them to be able to share that experience with me. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I was blessed and very lucky to come from a very supporting family that was able to do those things. No doubt about it. Man, just really wanted to prove myself, and at the same time, when you're a freshman, I'm going to be honest with you, at least the way I felt, there was a little uneasiness, a little unsure of myself. Do I belong here? Like, am I ready? And before I knew it, I was starting the third game of my freshman year and started every game after that. But I'm not going to lie to you, I did not walk on campus saying, I'm going to start this year and be the dude. My story is actually a little bit unique in that regard. When I was coming in as a true freshman, they had an all-conference starting quarterback returning who was going to be a junior or a senior, I forget. And right before camp started, they found out that he had a tumor in his arm because he was complaining of arm pain. So it wasn't like life-threatening, but the doctors pretty much told him, hey, you can't ever play quarterback again because you might throw the ball and snap your arm. So I went instantly from number 3 to number 2. I played the first game, played the entire second half of my second game, and then coach started me the third game, and then I never looked back, So I guess I was a little bit lucky that it worked out that way, but then I also was prepared to seize that opportunity and take hold of it and never look back. One, the speed of the game. You've probably heard that a lot. It's definitely true. When you go from high school, the majority of the kids that play in high school will never play college football. Not that they're not good high school football players, but when you get to that high level, FCS Division I, all those guys are on scholarship. You know what I mean? They got recruited too. So that took a while to get used to, especially as a quarterback throws that might be open in high school. That throw ain't going to cut it in college. That window's tighter. That DB is closing a lot quicker. And you find out very quickly through trial and error what's going to work and what's not going to work. Man, biggest moment in college football. I was very lucky to have numerous moments that I can think back on. I'd probably boil it down to two. My junior year, the last game of the year, we were playing Coastal Carolina for the conference championship. We were down by 14 points with 2 minutes left to play. Got the ball, drove down, scored very quickly. Didn't get the onside kick. They got the ball back. I think about a minute left. Ran the clock down to 10 seconds. So we're down by a touchdown. They've got the ball at midfield with 10 seconds left, and it's 4th down. And so they could punt it to us. Most teams say, hey, we'll punt it. There's no way they're going to go the length of the field to win the game. What they did, though, do you remember Jerome Simpson? Okay, right, big, tall, did the front flip, right. Great player. They put him at punter and told him to execute a play called a super safety. So basically you tell your punter or your best athlete that you put at punter to run around and run all the clock out because there's only 10 seconds left in the game, and you run out the back of the end zone. So you give the other team 2 points, but the game's over, so you win anyway. Well, that was their plan. So they snapped it to Jerome Simpson. He's running around back and forth. And oddly enough, obviously he didn't mean to do it, but he stepped out of bounds at their own 3-yard line with 2 seconds left. So we get the ball down a touchdown with the ball at the 3-yard line with 3 seconds left. I throw a touchdown pass to my buddy Marcus Murray. We go to double overtime and win the game. Like I said, so down 14 points with 2 minutes and you win the conference championship. That was pretty cool. The fans rushed the field, tore the goalpost down. I still got to have a piece of that goalpost in my room at home. So that was cool. And then really the very next game after that, the opening game of my senior year, we played our crosstown rival, the Citadel, and we had never beat them in the history of the school. We beat them in overtime. I think it was 35-28. And I threw for like 320 yards and 4 touchdowns. And it was, at that time, it was unheard of for us to beat them. So those 2 games for sure were the biggest. Yeah. We'll leave it at this. That goalpost that got torn down found its way to my backyard, and I lived off campus. It was my junior year. Found its way to my backyard, and we had a pretty good time celebrating that victory. And that was the last game of the year too. So I mean, we just went out on top, like as much as you possibly could be on top that year. So good times. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. I think that the older I get, the more I can reflect back and really value that. And not that, I mean, it was extremely, rewarding right when it happened. But I think, I forgot even what year that was. I was probably 25 at the time, 26 when I got inducted. And now here I am 12 years later. And so to be able to look back on that and know that, my name is etched in the Hall of Fame for the Big South is pretty cool. Something I can tell my kids about. Yeah. Three things: coaching, first and foremost, to get recruited by our head coach. Really everything I learned about playing the quarterback position was taught to me by Jay Mills, who was the head coach, the OC, and the QB coach. He really, took me under his wing from day one, like we talked about before, threw me in the fire, let me learn and grow and make mistakes, and then trusted me to be the guy to, take Charleston Southern to a place that hadn't been before. So for him, for that, I'm forever grateful. Number two, great teammates. Not only did they, recruit me, but the recruiting classes that he put together the 4 years I was there were phenomenal. Had big-time players, big-time, across the board. But one guy in particular, a teammate of mine, Maurice Price, is from Orlando, Florida. He ended up being an All-American receiver. He played in the NFL for a couple of years and the Canadian League for many years. So being able to throw the ball to guys like him, it made my job easy, really. Great offensive line, great running backs. Oddly enough, a lot of our better players came from the state of Florida. They recruited Florida heavily. We actually had more players from the state of Florida than we did from South Carolina, even though Charleston Southern's in South Carolina. So they did their homework and they knew what they were doing. And the third thing was my work ethic. I always played with a chip on my shoulder. I think that comes from, again, being a younger brother or people doubting me and just always feeling like I had to prove myself. So that always provided a lot of extra motivation for me that I wanted to prove people wrong. So those three things for sure. My sophomore year. Yeah, because my freshman year we won one game. It was tough sledding throughout the whole year, but definitely committed. The growth for me my first year to my second year was the mental part of the game. Like the entire year of my first year, I was playing, my head was spinning out there. I didn't know the playbook enough. The defense is a way more complex that you're seeing, the responsibilities of the quarterbacks to make, protection checks and audibles at the college level is way different than the high school level. So I really didn't know what the heck I would do in my first year, but I committed to really learning the playbook and committing to the mental part of playing the quarterback position. So it was probably early on in my sophomore year where I felt like I was in complete control and command of the offense. It didn't matter what the defense was presenting to me. I knew exactly where to go with the ball. And at that point I was like, all right, I think I can do it. Yeah. So going into my senior year, I had the big junior year. I was named the Big South Offensive Player of the Year. So I had all the accolades. We had just won the championship. We had this big year expected, and we did. We had a great year. We started 9-0 that year, and we're on a 14-game winning streak. I didn't have quite the stats my senior year that I had my junior year, but we were winning, and that's all that really mattered to me. But so before my senior year of college, the scouts had reached out. They didn't really reach out to me personally, but they would reach out to the coaching staff, and they were at practice. You'd be at practice one day, and there'd be a scout from the Niners or the Vikings, and you got to be on point. You got to be on point. Yeah, so when I got done playing football in the fall semester my senior year, I was still a couple semesters away from graduating. So what I did my spring semesters, I actually withdrew from school knowing that I would come back and finish. And I moved out to Los Angeles, California with a teammate of mine. We had signed with the same agent. And so we lived out there basically January to March, and all we did was train for 3 months. We were just training for the pro day. I didn't have an NFL combine invite, so all I had was my pro day. So we were lifting, running, throwing, training for 40s, trying to put on weight, all the things you have to do to get prepared for your pro day. So we did that and then came back to South Carolina probably March or April and had the pro day, in front of a handful of scouts. So no, I think looking back on it, there's one thing that I could do all over again is be able to have that pro day performance back. I don't know, what it was. Playing quarterback is very much like being a pitcher in baseball. You've probably heard people talk about, hey, he's got it tonight, or sometimes he's off. He can't hit the strike zone to save his life, and he gets yanked after 3 innings. And so for whatever reason, it wasn't my day, and that was my one day to shine. I had the accolades, I had the production, I had the size for the most part, but pro day didn't stack up to be in my favor. Yeah, I would say one, relax, right? I mean, you're literally going out there doing something in shorts and t-shirt, you're not even in pads at a pro day that you've done for, 15, 16 years of your life probably, So relax, don't put, too much pressure on yourself. And then remember, it's just a game. At the end of the day, I think that's one mistake that players at all levels make. And even coaches at times too, that we are playing a game. Football is not life and death. It's extremely important. It's made me who I am. It's my career. It provides for my family. It's my passion. But at the end of the day, I think I was just putting too much pressure on myself in that moment. It's a big moment. It's obviously a huge opportunity if you can make it to the NFL. It's a life-changing experience. It's life-changing money. All those things are true. But at the end of the day, there's still bigger things in life than football. So when I had my pro day and the NFL draft came and the free agent contracts went out and I didn't get one, I was contacted by numerous arena league teams with the opportunity to come play in that league. If back then, which was that year, that was 2007. If you didn't make it in the NFL, you could either try to play in the Canadian League or the Arena League. And my route ended up being in the Arena League, so I got the opportunity basically summer of 2007, which was already halfway through their season, to jump onto a team, and then I played in that league for 7 years. It's changed so much over the years. I couldn't even tell you what they look like right now. Back when I played, you technically signed a year contract, but that contract basically meant nothing. You could be cut, you could be shipped out, traded the next day. It was kind of like the Wild West, because you're not talking, an NFL contract, there's some portion of it's guaranteed money. There's buyouts, there's all these different things, right? If you get cut, or get traded, either somebody's going to have to pick up your contract, right? Or they're going to owe you some money, and big time money in the NFL, right? We made some money in the Arena League, but it's not like NFL money, right? So because the money's so different, it's just not as strict as far as the contracts are concerned, at least when I played. I mean, I wasn't ever cut in any sport in my life until I got into the Arena League. And that happened to me, I think, twice in 7 years. Very common. It just was what it was. It was not fun to go through. But back to your original question, yeah, you signed a contract, but they pretty much could do whatever they wanted to do. All right, so good story for you. So when I first got out, right, the Arena League, they had the AFL, which was the Arena League, and then they had the AF2, right, which was basically a feeder system into the AFL, like the minor leagues. So most guys coming fresh out of college, and what I did, I had to go play in the Arena 2 league, right? So that's basically like single A or double A minor league baseball. So my first couple of years in the Arena League, we made, it was $250 a game, okay? But you got free housing, you got free meals. So you're living free for 6 months. You're getting some money in your pocket per month. You don't have many expenses, but it was a grind. I mean, it was not some glamorous, it's not the NFL, obviously. But I still had the dream of making it to the NFL. And that path for me was going to have to be, Arena 2 into Arena 1, right, AFL, and then hopefully, a bigger contract after that. At the height of my career, when the old AFL disbanded, they brought back what they call the new Arena League. If you were a starting quarterback, you were making, I think it was $1,800 a week, right? So you got 4 games a month and you live free, right? And got free meals. So not anywhere close to NFL money, but a means to keep playing. And a lot of the guys didn't happen to me, but a handful of guys that I played with went from the Arena League, to the NFL. And so it was, that's what you had to do if you wanted to keep playing. And for me at that point, it was definitely never about the money. Not many guys get to say they played college football, right? And then even a smaller percentage of that get to say they played any level professional football, albeit in the Arena League. So I was just happy for the opportunity and played as long as Well, first of all, such a different game, too. It's a confined space. The field's only 50 yards long and about 25 yards wide, right? So, half as wide, half as long. The game's so fast because of that confined space. For the quarterback position, I think it's probably the hardest transition for any player moving from outdoor football to indoor football would be the quarterback. Learning that type of game. Defensive back is an extremely tough position to play in the Arena League as well when you got guys running at you full speed. So that was a learning curve. And the talent level is really good now. Again, you're talking about guys who are a click or two away from being good enough to play in the NFL. Guys that played in the NFL and were in the Arena League for whatever reason. Maybe they got in trouble. Maybe they got cut and they're trying to make it back. So the talent level was extremely good, extremely good. We're not talking about semi-pro football, men's league. We're talking about guys that got paid to play the game. Biggest moment of my pro ball career, I had a really good year, 2 of them. I had a really good year in 2008 when I played for the Green Bay Blizzard. Just being consistent, holding down the starting job for the majority of the year, just a lot of that was an extremely neat environment to play in as well, because we're in Green Bay in the summertime, right? So the Packers are off, NFL's not playing yet, and if you live in Green Bay, you're a football fanatic, right? And so when the Packers aren't in town, they all were just like, well, shoot, we're going to go watch the Blizzard play. That's what we were called. And so the arenas were packed out, 8, 9, 10,000 people. So that was a neat opportunity. And then in 2011, it was my first year playing for the Orlando Predators, actually, which is one of the most storied franchises in the AFL. I got my first start halfway through the year. It was a nationally televised game on the NFL Network, oddly enough. We came back late to beat, I think it was the Pittsburgh Power we played, but I had a great game. Arena was packed out. And so just kind of thinking back on those are probably the two biggest moments for me. Is that my touchdown to interception ratio?
Gotta go back and look at Collin Drafts.
It actually was an easy transition for me. I had already started coaching high school football while I was playing arena football, because Arena League, is in the spring, pretty much February to, late summer, which doesn't conflict with high school football. So I was already 4, 5, 6 years into coaching. I was on the tail end of my playing career. I could feel it, just get to that point where I was like, I think it might be time. And since I already was coaching, it was an easy transition for me to transfer my passion for playing for my passion of coaching and helping others. And oddly enough, it was I can remember the year. It was going into the 2011 season. I was an offensive coordinator at Olympia High School. We had a kid by the name of DeAndre Francois, who was the former starting quarterback at Florida State. Well, he was a freshman, and he was my first quarterback. And I remember watching him practice and watching him, just the potential he had. And I was just way more excited to get to practice every day to coach him up. And I started to care less about playing. So just that timing of it, I was like, you know what? Now it's time, and never look back. Don't regret it one bit. I've put out every quarterback that's played for me has gone to play college football since 2011. So if I go back to the first quarterback we had at Olympia, Colby Brown, I think he ended up at Tennessee Tech. DeAndre Francois, this is when I was a coordinator. DeAndre Francois went to Florida State. Then I was at West Orange High School. Hayden Griffiths went to BYU. DeAndre was Elite 11, Under Armour All-American as well. He was number 4 in the country, I think. After Hayden, I had Woody Barrett, who ended up being the number 3 quarterback in the country. He went to Auburn out of high school. He was Elite 11 and Under Armour All-American as well. Then I transitioned from being a coordinator to a head coach. So my first quarterback as a head coach, guy by the name of Tyler O'Hare. His dad coached me in the Arena Football League, where he was the head coach of the Orlando Predators, Pat O'Hare, who now currently is a quarterback's coach for the Tennessee Titans. So, yeah, it really is. Tyler O'Hare went to play, he went off and played a couple years of Division III football. When I was after that, I was the head coach at AC Flora High School in Columbia, South Carolina. We had a 2-quarterback system the 2 years I was up there. Josh Heatley went off, actually played fullback in college at Catawba, and then Matt Jameson went and played defensive back at UNC Pembroke. So I guess those two would be the only 2 guys that did go play college quarterback, right? And then I transitioned to be the head coach at Nease in 2019. Joe Nieves was the first quarterback. He was a senior my first year. He actually finished in the top 5 for the voting for the 8A Player of the Year. He had like over 3,000 yards and 34 touchdowns that year. We struggled as a team, but he had a phenomenal year. 2020, the COVID year, Will Carr now plays at Troy University. That was also when we were experimenting with Marcus Stokes a little bit. And then 20, 21, and 22, Marcus Stokes, top 20 quarterback in the country, Elite 11, his story, and now he's at West Florida. So, I'll put it like this. I know that I work extremely hard coaching quarterbacks, but I think I've been a little bit lucky and blessed along the way too, to be able to have those guys, along my journey as a coach, the way I see it. For sure. I guess that's the $1 million question for every coach, right? Not only just a quarterback coach, but I just think being able to share my experiences with players and having them know that I've I've been in their shoes before. I've played the position. We talked about this before. I don't go around, touting all my accolades and everything, but they've got a phone. They can look it up too. So a lot of times they'll bring it up to me, and I'll have to tell them, what the deal was, and that helps a little bit. But I think the best answer I can give you is really just why I coach. Like, my passion is just being able to help young people learn and grow and transfer the knowledge that I've gained through the game to them. And that's for all my players, because I am the head coach, but I still have, that love for just getting in the details with the quarterbacks, man, whether it's the mechanics of throwing the ball and playing the position, the board work, the film, the mental side of the game, the schematics. If I could do anything, I would just do that all day, but being a head coach, I've got a lot of other things I have to worry about as well. The hardest thing I ever had to overcome, the death of a teammate. Going into my junior year at Charleston Southern, I was in college. We had a receiver by the name of Eddie Gadsden. He was a walk-on. He came in with me our freshman year as a walk-on. You could tell right away, the kid was legit. He started just like I did. I think like the third game of the year, me and him were starting. He was poised for a breakout year his freshman year, and then he had an injury, so he was out. He played 3 or 4 games. He was immediately put on scholarship, as he deserved it. So going into our sophomore year, that's when we started to turn the corner. Like, me personally, we started winning games. I was all conference. He was all conference. So that was a fun year. So going into our junior year, we had high hopes, right? We had high expectations for me, for him, for the team. And then in June of 2005, he passed away in a car accident. Yeah, so 2005, 18 years ago, right? 18 years ago. He was right around 2021. So that was tragic. That was the first time I dealt with the loss of somebody like that so close to me. It greatly affected our team. How do you deal with that? We're 19, 20, 21 years old at the time. So it was difficult because we started very slow that year. We had high hopes, right? I think we started 0-2. Something, it was bad. We got blown out. I remember it vividly. We played Presbyterian College. They came down to Charleston and just, whooped us. It was 42-0. It was really bad. And we showed up to practice that Monday. Normally on Monday in college, we'd be in helmets only, running some gases and throwing the ball around. We went full gear and scrimmaged. Soon after that, we found a way to band together as a team and just said, hey, you know what? We're going to be unified. We're going to play for Eddie. That was kind of our, just our motto, so to speak, moving forward. And then after a 2-4 start, we won 14 games. We talked about that was the year we beat Coastal Carolina. Quick story about that too. So when we won the game in double overtime, I talked about Jerome Simpson, running out of bounds, and we beat him in double overtime. We scored a touchdown first in double overtime. They had the ball, Tyler Thigpen, Jerome Simpson, 4th down and 7 or something in double overtime. Threw a slant pass, the ball was batted down. We win that game. When they had the ball was on the 21-yard line, right? Eddie wore number 21. So all these things, man, it was like the stars aligned to provide at least a little bit of healing, not only for us, but Eddie's dad was there, Eddie's mom was there. How do you deal with the loss of a son? But through the game of football, through that 2005 championship season, there was some healing that was done with what we were able to accomplish for him. So definitely the hardest thing I've ever had to go through as a player, also the most rewarding. Wish we could bring Eddie back, but it was a neat process to go through to grow.
Yep. So what was the hardest thing you had to go through?
Yeah, the hardest thing I've ever had to go through as a coach was my second year as a head coach. My first year as a head coach, I took over East River High School in Orlando, Florida. So I'd been in Orlando for 5 years as a coordinator, got my first head job. They had been not very good, to be honest with you. I think they had won like 4 games in 4 years, So it was probably a good first head job in the sense that there was nowhere to go but up. I came in and hired a great staff. We whipped them into shape, had a great year, went 6-5 and made the playoffs. So that was a big turnaround. And then very quickly, I had other opportunities come my way. And one of them was to move back to my home state and be the head coach at AC Flora High School. AC Flora was vastly different in the sense that they had been pretty good before. They had had some good years. The 2 previous coaches before me had been at Flora for 4 years and won enough and gone on to get big-time jobs in the state of South Carolina. So it wasn't like I was coming in to a situation where we were bottom dwellers. The mistake I made was thinking after only 1 year of being a head coach, one pretty good year, that I had it all figured out and that I knew it all. And so I came in, made a lot of mistakes. It was a vastly different environment. Having been coaching in Orlando for 6 years and then moving back to South Carolina. Football's football, but the culture and the dynamics and the politics and the community is so much different. So I was used to doing things a certain way, and I thought I could take that blueprint and duplicate that success in year 2. And so we lost every game that year with 0-10. And it was, looking back on it, it was the hardest thing I ever had to go through as I was going through it. It was extremely difficult. It was the best thing that ever happened to me as a young head coach, because in getting my ass whipped, to be honest with you, I really had to do a lot of self-reflection on, okay, what am I doing wrong? How can I grow? What do I need to change? And it was really built out of desperation is not the right word, but put it like this. It was a climate where had I not won in year 2, I would have got fired, right? My back was against the wall. I had guys, I had players transfer out that weren't bought in. I had coaches that weren't bought in that stabbed me in the back. So really, I really had to hunker down and say, okay, what are the most important things for me to do as a head coach? I learned very quickly it's the people you surround yourself with. I'll never, ever argue anything as a head coach. The most important thing is your staff. And I learned that going through that process. So we go 0-10. We start my second year 0-2. So on a 12-game losing streak, my first 12 games. We lose all 12, right? And then we won 9 games in a row. Won 9 games in a row, which at the time was the longest winning streak in the history of that school. We won our district championship. Lost a heartbreaker in the second round, like by 2 points in the final minute. But I remember walking off that field, like not being disappointed at all, because I know that I left it all on the field that entire year. The players, like we literally gave everything we had the whole year. And that game, it just wasn't in the cards for us to keep going. So that was difficult, but I learned a lot. And then after that year, for family reasons, this is when I moved down to Jacksonville, 2019, to be the head coach at Nease. The freshmen, my first year at AC4, those guys that went 0-10, we were 9-2 or 9-3 that year. 2 years later, when they were seniors, won the state championship in 2020. And so I knew those guys had it in them and had a bright future. So that was neat to see that as well, even though I wasn't a coach, just to be able to say, you know what, like we played a small part of that, going through tough times, building it up. And then the guy that came in, Dustin Curtis, the head coach after me, did a phenomenal job of that staff too. So learned a lot the 2 years I was at up in Columbia, South Carolina. Belief. First and foremost, you have to get the players to believe they belong on the field with whoever they're playing against. And really, I guess another word to describe it would be mentality or even culture. Mindset, I think, is the biggest thing. Everybody lifts, everybody runs, everybody practices. Some programs do it more efficiently than others, right? But when the kids believe that they can beat anybody, regardless of what they've been through before, what they might be going through in a moment, if you have them bought into you as a head coach, your coaching staff, your culture, and your system, then in my opinion, if you stay at it and you're consistent, it's only a matter of time. I got to give you 2 answers. Okay, so first and foremost, things are different nowadays. It's been going on too long, right, that the lopsidedness of the money was not in the players' favor at all. So I am in support of players making some money. They deserve it. College football's big business, billion-dollar industry, whatever it is, right? There's so much money going around. They deserve a piece of the pie. I wish we had that when I played. That would have been cool, right? But I think in its current state, it's destroying college football. There's no regulation. There's no contracts. It's basically what used to be cheating is now legal for everybody just to throw millions and millions and millions of dollars into enticing players to recruits to come to their school. Transfer portal ties into that. To me, it's just a complete mess. It's not what college football, in my opinion, is intended to be. That's what makes college football so beautiful, is the, what's the word I'm looking for? The pureness of it, of what, in its intent, at least. I'm not going to lie. There's probably always been cheating going on, right? But at least there's rules against it. That doesn't make it right, though. You're not supposed to be doing these things now. You basically, in my opinion, it's professional football with no contracts and no regulation. So I think the fix could be and this won't ever happen, right? But let college football be what it's supposed to be: amateurism, school, going to school, getting a free education, and playing college football and having the atmosphere and the support of those communities and towns. That's what makes college football great. On the flip side of that, create an alternative, right? Just like the G League or minor league baseball, whatever you want to call it, you could have a league where if kids want to come straight out of high school and get paid to play, they can do that. Football is the only sport where you don't have that. You get drafted right out of high school for baseball, right? You go straight into single A. Some of those kids are signing $1 million signing bonus. They go single A, double A, triple A, and then they're in the majors, right? NBA, one and done is ridiculous, right? You got to go to college 1 year. Let those guys go to the NBA, but those guys know they're going to be going to the NBA after 1 year. And then also now you have, used to be the D League, now it's the G League, right? Yeah. So I mean, we're America, man. Like, we're the only country in the world where kids can't sign professional contracts at any age they want. You go to Europe, those kids are signing soccer contracts when they're 12. Is that good? If they're good enough and that's what the route they want to take, who are we to tell them they can't do that? So it's a long-winded answer, but I love college football, so I hate to see the current state of it. Sure. Pretty, in my opinion. I think when you tie in transfer portal and NIL, it's a deadly combination. It's a touchy subject or slippery slope when you try to say a kid can't transfer, okay? I think that there should be some freedom and flexibility there for different circumstances. If a coach leaves, right? There's numerous reasons where kids should be able to transfer. But at the end of the day, too, what happened to commitment, right? And being somewhere and trying to make it work. But then when you add in NIL, a kid can just say, I'm going to transfer, right? And then go out to the highest bidder, right? And many people will argue, well, that kid deserves that. And that's fine, right? But that's not what college football is supposed to be. What we just described right there, that's professional football, right? The free agent market and contracts, and what people forget too, guys that play professional football, professional sports, you are under contract, right? You can hold out, you can sit out, but you can't just wake up one day and say, I don't like the Dolphins anymore. I'm going to go play for the Chiefs. Well, you're under contract with the Dolphins. The Chiefs are going to have to figure something out. You're going to get traded, buy you out, whatever the case may be. It's not just hop in the free agency portal and go play where you want to. So there's no regulation. Number one would be a better leader, a more vocal leader. I led by example. I worked hard. I was respected by my teammates, but I was probably more concerned with being liked by my teammates than being as good of a leader as I should have been as the quarterback, really kind of as the face of the program. When you're the quarterback, everybody's looking at you. And I probably like to play around a little too much, or maybe not hold my peers accountable when I know I should have. I did that at times, but I wasn't that guy that I would want as a coach. If I was coaching myself, I would have been, all over me like, hey, you got to be more vocal. You got to be a better leader. These are the things I try to coach into the quarterbacks that I have now. So that would definitely be the main one. Be patient. I think that as we go through life, especially at a young age, no matter what field you're in, whether you're playing football, coaching football, any career really, we get so caught up on maybe climbing the ladder very quickly or getting from point A to point B to point C, to get as much gain from something as we possibly can. I think it goes back to my answer that I gave when you asked me about recruiting too. What would I tell a recruit that's trying to get recruited more, or high school players trying to get recruited more? I tell them not to worry about getting recruited more. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't think about the end result, right? Don't focus on what you're trying to get out of the game. Just enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment. So that would be the biggest thing. Yeah, don't give up. Don't give up. I mean, like I said, I had the opportunity to play football after college for 7 years. Some of the best people I've ever met, some of my best friends in this world I met playing arena football. Isaac Morales, the offensive line coach here, he was on the first Arena League team that I ever played on. Coach Robert Garth, Coach G, former defensive coordinator, he's my best friend. He was on the first arena team ever played for. That was 16, 17 years ago. So there's a ton of experiences you can get from continuing to play the game, even if it's not in the NFL. And then number two, and probably the more importantly, I'm sure that if you have the opportunity coming out of college to even get a stiff at the NFL, that was probably a lifelong goal of yours. So don't give up right away just because you didn't get it when you wanted it. There's plenty of stories of guys coming out of the Arena League. Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner was stocking shelves at Walmart, playing for the Iowa Barnstormers, and now he's in the Hall of Fame, right? It didn't work out for me, but I'm just one story. So keep grinding, and if your goal is to make it in the league, do everything you possibly can, because you're not going to want to look back when you're 30, 35, 40 years old and be like, dang, I gave it up too quick, An aspiring coach, be willing to get your hands dirty. And it goes back to what I said before, be patient, right? You're not going to be a coordinator right away, not going to be a head coach right away. You're going to be painting the field. You're going to be doing the laundry, right? You're going to be coaching the freshman team, but that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. So be willing to put your time in. And then number two, be loyal. That's it. Be loyal. Somebody hired you to be in that position. The head coach hired you. Have his back 100%, no matter what. I want to get off my chest or promote before we finish up. Well, I'm a constant promoter of Nease football. This is my life. It's my passion. I love this school. I love this program. We're going into year 5 now. We've had our ups and downs, right? We've had some great years. We've had some tough years. So we've got the season coming up. We've got the kickoff classic less than 3 weeks away. We'll be in the brunt of the season very quickly. And anything I want to get off my chest, just respect Nease football. That's it.
Or there we had it, man. Another great man getting with our Nathan.
You didn't have to do that one again. We almost made it, man. We almost made it. Yep.
Well, there we have it. Another creative moment state of view here with Collin Drafts, head coach of Nease football. And hold on, gotta say it again. Our first Hall of Famer here on the Creative Moments interview platform, man. Thank you for coming through, Coach Drafts. Glad to have you, man.
Definitely appreciate you having me. Always a pleasure.
I was standing in the league.